Hey everyone, it's Wolfgang. I want to give an update on remote work from home, working from home. One of the reasons I wanted to post this, I have a friend who was affected by this issue recently, and so I thought I'd cover it in a video. COVID created, well, it didn't really create, but it really amplified work from home, remote work in 2020. There was remote work before that, but not at the same level. When COVID hit in 2020, remote work became a big deal. It became very important because there were restrictions on everyone's mobility, everyone's ability to get around. So work from home sort of became a requirement for a lot of people in 2020. So one of the things that occurred, some employees moved out of town away from the workplace and worked remotely. There were a lot of videos from Florida of people who had relocated to Florida to do remote work. And the problem that presents is when the work from home policy started getting reversed in 2023, those folks who had moved away either got laid off or they had to move back if they wanted to keep their job. So it was hard to know at the time in 2020 how long the work from home trend would last. There was a belief initially that this is a new thing, this is the way of work in the future, but for various reasons I'll go into, that it didn't pan out that way. So why have companies begun to stop work from home? So there's a lot of reasons. One of the things that companies have noticed across the country, on average, this is an average, keep that in mind, 3 fewer work hours per day are clocked by people working from home. That's not true for everyone. Some people work just as long and hard at home as they do in the office, but some people don't. So on average, companies have noticed 3 fewer hours of work, and that leads to lower productivity, again, on average. A lot of people are just as productive when they're doing remote work as they are at the office, but some are not. And so companies started noticing the drop in productivity. One of the things that creates is a need to hire more people. If you're getting less work output from the same number of people and you still need more work done, then you have to hire more people, which is a cost to the company. So the companies sort of noticed when productivity began to drop. And again, that's on average. It's not for everybody. A lot of people are just as productive at home as they are at work. So even tech companies are ending work from home. And if you think about it, I've got a tech background. I was a software engineer in Silicon Valley for quite a while. That's knowledge work. You're interacting with the computer a lot. So that type of work is very amenable to being done off-site. Remote work from home. For tech companies, it fits. It's a good fit. However, that being said, Microsoft, Salesforce, Meta, and a lot of tech companies are ending work from home. Just today, February 28th, Google announced they want their AI staff to return to work. So a lot of big tech companies are putting an end to remote work. So I dug into this to find out what company leaders say about remote work. Lots of distractions at home. And unlike the workplace, the company can't control those distractions. So I thought about this, and I thought to myself, because I've done work from home in the past, and yes, distractions, unexpected things come up, and I asked myself, if I'd been at work, what would have happened? And the answer was nothing would have happened because I wouldn't have been home to experience it. I would have been at work. And so company leadership says there are no distractions in the workplace, and if there are, we can control them, which is true. And so in their opinion, company leadership wants people in the workplace because distractions reduce productivity. It goes back to companies needing to hire more people because the rest of their staff, a portion of it anyways, has become less productive, and they don't want to hire more people, especially now when the economy is a little bit soft. So another thing that company leaders have said, new hires and junior staff members are slower to reach productivity if the experienced staff members are not in the office. That one I know is true. When I had my first software engineer job out of college, I relied pretty heavily on my workmates to get up to speed in that company. I relied on my friends at work to help me reach productivity as quickly as possible. Had they not been there, it would have taken me longer to figure out, because even though you're applying the same skill set in different companies do things differently, and you have to learn the ropes of how that particular employer does things. And with all the more experienced staff out of the office working from home, that's a problem. So I think that's a fair call on the part of company leaders. Another thing company leaders have said, collaboration is easier if everyone is in the office. Now, I've got a personal experience with this. We had a guy on a software engineering team at a company I worked at who would write code, and then he would check it in without back testing it to see if it would break anything else. And he did that repeatedly. And he was in the office. So we kind of got used to having to go back to that guy to his office and said, you checked in code that broke the work of 5 other software engineers. And can you please back out that change and fix the problem and go through the normal testing you were supposed to have done, before you submitted your changes to the product. And so this person was in the office. So it was easy. Part of collaboration is being able to grab somebody and say, can you please help us? There's a problem with the product and you can fix it. You're the only one who can fix it because you're the one who broke it. So if this person, I won't give you his name, but it was a chronic problem. If this guy had been working from home and hiding behind email and phone, then there's like several other people at work who cannot be productive that day. They have to wait for this guy to get back in and back out of changes or take some other drastic action to try to figure out how to cleanly back out the changes he made to the product. So this, I think, is a valid call. And that's just a software company. There are other companies that I'm sure they have similar situations where you need to be able to collaborate real time with the people who are working that day when things come up. So I think that's a valid call that company leaders have commented on. And this issue is very poignant because I have a friend that this happened to. And it's one of the reasons I'm making this video. If headcount reduction is needed, like in today's economy, work from home staff get laid off first, especially if they're making $250,000 a year. So if you're a software engineer doing remote work, making $250,000 a year, and a headcount reduction is called for, and you have resisted, in his case, he resisted calls to come back to work, then he got laid off. And the income goes to zero overnight. So it's pretty painful. So, you can advise your friends, consider the economic situation. There have been a lot of layoffs and the economy is kind of slowing down. Maybe it's a good idea to show up at work, and the company's been asking everyone to do that. And you can't really tell your friends to do that. You can ask them to or advise them, and it doesn't always work. So my advice would be because the economy is kind of, it's not perfect right now, and there have been layoffs, is if you've got, a supervisor telling you to come back to work, I would do it. That's just me. Okay. So as an example, consumer spending was reported to be lowest in 4 years. So the economy is in a tough situation. Amazon recently announced 15,000 layoffs are coming. They already laid off well over 10,000 people before that. Amazon also announced all their AWS staff have to return to the office full time. So companies, there's a time and a place for everything, I guess is the way I would say it. When COVID was a thing and we were not able to have the same mobility, when people were not supposed to be moving around unless it was completely necessary, there was a reason for work from home because we were being prevented from being mobile. Our mobility was being limited. But that's no longer the case. Now our mobility is back to what it was before the pandemic. So there's a time and a place for everything. And so if you're a remote worker, you might consider that is this really reasonable now? Because there's another thing about collaboration I want to mention. Okay, so when you start working inside a company, networking, there is professional networking that's part of your job. That's sort of an informal professional networking. In other words, you don't go to work with the objective that you're going to be professionally networking all day, but it happens. It's sort of an informal process. As an example, if you say to yourself, I want to be able to get promoted in this company, I want to get more responsibility, I want to build my reputation, I want a higher salary, then you can reach a couple of levels above your current level and try to find someone you have something in common with, like golfing or fishing or skiing or some activity that you share in common, ballroom dancing, who knows what. Something you have in, affinity for nice sports cars. You can network with people 2 levels above your pay grade, and you can learn how to position yourself to advance in the company so you can get promoted, you can get higher pay, you can develop your reputation, you can get more responsibility. You can't do that if you're working from home. When you work from home, you miss the professional networking opportunity at work. And I know a lot of people don't think along these lines, because a lot of software engineers that I worked with, they just wanted to write code. They wanted to sit at the computer and write code for hours on end. And I get it. I'm a software engineer too. But if you're thinking about advancing in your career, those people that are a couple of pay grades above you can help you, but you have to be there, right? You have to develop those you have to develop those friendships, so those relationships. So something to think about in terms of the collaboration. And there was a couple of other things I wanted to, I didn't have room for on the board. Okay, so the trend of remote work, working from home, the trend. I just want to cover the trend here briefly. So we all know when COVID hit, a lot of people were doing work from home. In 2023, that started seeing the phasing out of work from home. 30% of all work from home employees 2 years ago in 2023 returned to the office, about 30%. The next year, 2024, which was last year, the remaining work from home people, 70% of them also returned to the office. So as of last month, January, 90% of retail employees have returned to full-time work. 85% of employees in the education industry have returned to work. 80% of technology employees have returned to work. 75% of healthcare employees have returned to work. And as of January, last month, over 70% of working people have returned to the office full-time. So it's being phased out. In other words, and it makes sense. There's a time and a place for everything. When our mobility was being limited because of COVID, we had to work from home. But that's no longer the case. There's no longer any restriction on our mobility. And so that's why so many people are. So my friend could have paid attention to these trends and maybe gone back to work, show up at work if you're being asked to, and keep your job, because it's harder to find a job right now. If you have a job, you should try to keep it. So some of the companies who are doing a return to office: JP Morgan Chase, Amazon, I already mentioned, Nike, Walt Disney, Walmart, General Motors, Starbucks, Dell Computer, United Parcel Service, IBM, Infosys, PricewaterhouseCoopers. So a lot of companies have seen the productivity loss and the stickiness of work from home, that people thought would happen, did not happen. There's a down, because a lot of us, when we work from home, we're just as productive as when we're at the office. We don't hide behind voicemail or email. We stay in touch with, but other people don't. Some people move to Florida and they make poolside videos that I'm not working, the videos would say I'm working right now, and they're sitting next to a pool in Florida with a drink in their hand. So not everyone is as productive. So companies have, they have a legitimate reason to phase out work from home. So if you have any questions about any of this, post questions in the comments. I wanted to make this video because a friend of mine lost their job. He was a remote working person who sort of ignored the signs, and having your income go from 250 grand a year to zero overnight is a bummer. That's a problem. Now it is, because the economy is slow. Consumer spending is the lowest in 4 years. So anyways, I hope that helps everyone. I'm sorry this is happening. I know some people really like the remote work, but there are good things to be had at work. The professional networking is a big part of that. For future jobs, if you have a big professional network, that will help you get another job in the future, as another example. So if you have any questions, you can post in the comments. I really want to thank everyone for watching, and have a great day.